Not sometimes, but every single day he crosses my mind. In his 20s, he struggled with substance abuse. I had him in rehab multiple times, and each time he seemed to be making progress, but eventually things would spiral downward. A myriad of thoughts are occupying your thoughts. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong when a child was lost. Reality television viewers have known Rick Harrison for quite some time. With his keen business acumen and extensive historical knowledge, he has enchanted millions of viewers since Pawn Stars began in 2009. A lot of people are aware of the Harrisons' tragic losses in Rick's family, and a host of other personal and professional issues fill his life story with misery. All of this is going on behind the scenes at Las Vegas's world-renowned gold and silver pawn shop. It has not been an easy journey for him. The real-life Rick Harrison of Pawn Stars is something we'd like to tell you about. Things weren't always so good for Rick. He had a rough upbringing. Lexington, North Carolina, is the site of Rick's birth on March 22, 1965. It was at the age of 8 that he was diagnosed with epilepsy. He struggled to fit in socially and academically as a child because of his illness. Seizures frequently roused children, leaving them feeling isolated from peers who didn't comprehend their condition. Because they were ill-prepared, his family had a tough time dealing with his illness. Because he spent so much time in bed, he developed a deep love for reading. His lifelong curiosity about the past and the things people brought into his pawn shop were inspired by this event, which became a central theme in Pawn Stars through his fascinating anecdotes. Despite the fact that his circumstances improved with age, he often reflects on the profound impact it had on shaping his character. Rick has spoken publicly about his experience with epilepsy in an effort to raise awareness of the disorder and dispel common myths and stigmas surrounding it. With the correct support, he is living proof that people with epilepsy can lead fulfilling lives. More people are aware of the disorder, thanks to his public speeches, which have also brought attention to the need for greater understanding and better support services for people affected. When Rick's sister Sherry passed away at a young age, it was a devastating blow to his family. The extent of his family's loss eluded him. Birth year of Sherry Harrison was 1960. Richard and Joanne Harrison's firstborn is her. When it came to treating fetal heart defects and other health issues associated with Down syndrome, doctors back then didn't have nearly the same level of knowledge as they do now. She had a lot of health issues since birth due to her condition, and her frail health increased the likelihood that she would have problems that could kill her. For the sake of Sherry's access to top-notch medical care, Richard re-enlisted in the Navy. Her utmost care and treatment were ensured by these measures. Arriving nearly 4 years after Sherry, Rick was born in 1963. By the time he reached memory age, his sister had passed away. Tragically, Sherry passed away in 1967 at the age of 6. Her passing was a great loss to our family. Rick has been somewhat silent regarding his sister, but his grief over her passing is obvious. He has lived with the regret of never having a meaningful relationship with Sherry. Rick could sense his parents' grief, even though he was too little to recall her. The depth of Richard's grief over Sherry's death became clear to him as he matured. There was a lot of love and sorrow in Richard's descriptions of her. When Rick was around other people, he rarely brought up Sherry's death. His family's dynamic shifted after his sister's tragic death. Throughout his formative years, he carried the pain of that experience with him. The Rick family relocated to San Diego, California, when Rick was a teenager. After that, he and his father became very close. The reality that Rick's father was a very strict disciplinarian is something that Rick has never hidden. As a child of a Navy warrior, Rick learned the value of discipline. Disrespect and disobedience would not be tolerated by his father. Rick, like many teenagers, tested the boundaries with his parents when he was younger. At one point, Rick used foul language to argue with his dad, which was obviously unacceptable to his dad. As a result, Rick was physically assaulted by the more senior Harrison, who is notoriously harsh. While Rick acknowledged that his father's traditional parenting style may have been harsh, he insisted that it was simply the way he was brought up. Even if it meant being tough, the old man believed it was vital to teach responsibility and respect. Rick later said that the punch had scared him, but that it had also roused him and taught him the value of respect, particularly within his own family. For better opportunities, the Harrison family relocated to Las Vegas, Nevada, in the early 1980s. The gold and silver pawn shop was co-founded by Rick and his father in 1988. Though small at first, Rick's business flourished under the influence of his pleasant personality and refined taste in fine goods. After a long time, the store became the hub of Pawn Stars, propelling Rick and his family to international fame. Bad days happen to every company. That was something that Rick went through in 2012. At the time he was embroiled in a legal dispute, which cast a shadow over his company. The incident was the subject of a lawsuit filed by Vietnam War veteran Daniel Callahan. He felt violated when he was forcibly removed from the pawn shop. Daniel claimed that his attempt to sell a firearm in the store was the spark that ignited the altercation. He asserted that he was physically assaulted by store employees, choked by Rick and his father, and subsequently expelled from the establishment. As for Daniel's side of the story, he revealed that the Harrisons were physically abusive and anxious throughout the episode. A claim totaling $20,000 was also filed. However, Rick's son Corey Harrison strongly refuted these accusations. Corey stated in an interview that the altercation did not involve Rick or his grandfather. Instead, according to Corey, the staff had to intervene when Daniel had a nervous breakdown while armed, endangering the safety of everyone in the shop. There were reportedly 4,000 people in the store when Daniel started shouting at the owner, according to Corey. The staff's decision to terminate Daniel was justified, according to Corey, since it ensured the safety of everyone. This helped to defuse the situation. The pawn shop got a bad rap because of the case. Rick remained silent, allowing his son to publicly discuss the case, although it is unclear whether the case was ultimately resolved or dismissed. For Rick, Richard was more than simply a father figure and business associate. He was there for him and helped him out. Success at the gold and silver pawn shop was shaped in part by Richard's quick mind, self-control, and no-nonsense attitude toward life and work. Not only were they related, but they had also worked side by side for many years, which brought them closer. Unfortunately, Rick's dad passed away in 2018 due to complications related to his Parkinson's disease. He had never been sadder than he was at this moment. Despite the fact that Richard's condition had been deteriorating for some time, his passing was nonetheless shocking and horrifying. Now that your father has died, I think people want to know more about your family. Your father was a great man. Even though I suffered from epilepsy when I was a kid, my dad never made an exception for me. The time was 5:30 in the morning when I was 12 years old. On a Saturday, I woke up and grabbed my nail polish because my dad wouldn't purchase apartments without a foreclosed sticker on every door. In addition to grieving his father's death, Rick also had the responsibility of continuing his work. Everyone who knew and worked with Richard felt his absence. Since the show's main attraction had been the dynamic father-son relationship, fans of Pawn Stars were just as disappointed as Rick. After his father passed away, Rick found himself increasingly responsible for running the family and the company. While grieving this terrible loss, he tries to honor Richard's memory by talking about the things Richard taught him. Not long after his father passed away, Rick found himself embroiled in a contentious legal battle with his mother, Joanne Harrison. The main pawn shop, G&S Pawn Shop, Harrison Properties, and Joe Rich were among the family businesses and trusts that Joanne claimed Rick had excluded her from. She went on to sue Rick for this alleged breach of trust. She claimed that beginning in early 2020, Rick reduced the $25,000 monthly payments she was receiving from him to $20,000, and then he stopped making payments altogether in March of that year. In addition, Joanne claimed that Rick had stolen property that legally belonged to her, such as a safe containing cash and silver, and that he had failed to provide her with documentation detailing the expenditure of the shop's funds. After her husband passed away, she claimed that the family trust, which contained at least $100,000 in cash and approximately $500,000 in silver, was inaccessible to her because Rick had prevented her from accessing it. In response to the case, Rick stated his belief that his mother was being taken advantage of by others. The accused, he claimed, were unfounded, and he would take measures to safeguard himself. The public was very interested in the case, due to the seriousness of the accusations and the prominent family involved. Rick Harrison is still a businessman at heart, and although he became famous overnight thanks to Pawn Stars, he occasionally feels bad about the fame he gained. With fresh opportunities came significant challenges. He was the center of controversy and criticism because he ran his business in public. Criticism of the pawnshop's operations is one of Rick's main challenges. Those who have shopped at Pawn Stars or watched the show have voiced their opinions about the fairness of certain deals or the apparent manipulation of prices to increase profits. Despite the lack of evidence and the fact that most of the accusations are unfounded, Rick has had to delicately navigate the public's perception of him. Rick has acknowledged that it is difficult to satisfy everyone in a business that deals with bargaining, negotiating, and the valuation of rare things, because people often have different ideas about what is fair. Many are curious about Rick's political views as well. As a result of his public support for conservative causes, his fan base is deeply divided. Some appreciate his outspokenness, while others find his combination of politics and humor to be annoying. He is aware that discussing politics can alienate some people, but he has never apologized for his beliefs. Last but not least, the ever-present nature of fame has altered Rick's life. He has a hard time balancing his professional and personal lives because of the constant scrutiny from the public and the intrusion of cameras into his personal. It was a devastating loss when Rick's son Michael Harrison passed away in January 2024. Adam, a 39-year-old man, died on January 19 from an overdose. The lethal combination of drugs in his system was the official cause of death. Losing his son was the worst possible outcome for Rick, who was already dealing with issues in his personal and with the. Rick expressed his sadness in a touching Instagram post. As a coping mechanism for his depression, Rick became an outspoken advocate for drug prevention and education. He has made great efforts to use his position to raise awareness about the dangers of harmful chemicals and the urgent need for better resources to combat these problems. As an advocate, Rick honors his son's memory while striving to spare other families the pain he endured. This work has given Rick strength, allowing him to transform his loss into a social movement for change. Things have been tough in Rick's romantic life, despite his successful career. Despite her 3 marriages, they all ended in the same manner. He wed Kimberly Harrison for the first time, and they had Adam and Corey. They tied the knot in the 80s, but 2011 marked the end of their 10-year marriage. Like many marriages, their dissolution was likely the result of a combination of emotional and professional strains, though the specific reasons behind it remain unknown. Rick had a lot on his plate between promoting Pawn Stars and growing his pawn shop. Because of his hectic schedule, Kimberly may have felt neglected or anxious. Rick maintained contact with his children following the divorce, and the couple went through the process amicably. Corey, who would later co-host Pawn Stars with Rick, was one of his children from his first marriage, and Rick continued to be active in their lives after the divorce. In 2013, Rick tied the knot for the second time with Tracy Harrison. Their relationship appeared to be off to a good start, but they split up after just a short time together. Like his first marriage, the details of their split are mostly unknown, although Rick's hectic work schedule likely had a role. After the breakup, Tracy Harrison avoided the spotlight, and the media never got the whole story. Rick, on the other hand, has often stated that the anguish of his second divorce prompted him to re-evaluate his life and relationships. Rick wed Deanna for the 3rd time in 2013, despite the emotional toll his second divorce had taken on him. They seem to be getting along well at first. To be more specific, People magazine exclusively published wedding photos. Unfortunately, that led to their divorce. Rumor has it that they had issues together, though not nearly as much has been made public about their split as his previous marriages. Rick and Deanne officially ended their relationship in 2020. Their inability to start a family together likely made this divorce easier on him emotionally than his others. However, Rick still had a tough time of it. As a side gig, I got into buying and selling items, and I learned pretty much everything I needed to know. Trading goods has always been a part of my life. My father owned a little coin store. I really wanted a pawn shop. They denied my request when I visited City Hall. There are no pawn shops in Las Vegas, within Sin City. Plus, I inquired as to why. The local ordinance was removed. There would be one additional loan license distributed. It's safe to say that Rick's two marriages and subsequent divorces have contributed to his personal and professional development. Following a difficult period at work and in his personal, Rick has resolved to prioritize his health and begin a new chapter in his. The well-known Pawn star recently posted photos of himself and his new girlfriend, the nurse Angie Pushkin, from Las Vegas, showing his joy at their union. They first crossed paths a couple of months ago. Their once close friendship blossomed into an intense romantic partnership. The lovers recently went on a European vacation to celebrate Angie's birthday. Paris was the setting for many joyous occasions, such as toasting a birthday and sipping cocktails by the Eiffel Tower. They have been outside of Europe on their adventures. The helicopter tour of the Grand Canyon, the Adele concert, and the Luthen sites are among the highlights. Despite losing loved ones, Rick has shown tremendous strength by keeping the gold and silver pawn shop running and entertaining viewers on Pawn Stars. Rick has not slowed down one bit in his pawn shop. Pawn Stars will air its 23rd season soon. Some of the cool stuff that will be there include a Brickland SV1 and a limited edition Nike raft. Rick has found joy and light through his new friendship with Angie. Even though he is going through a tough time, Rick finds a way forward as he balances his work responsibilities with a fresh determination to pursue his own happiness, thanks to their shared experiences. With any luck, this is useful.